Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Elena Bowman with HitTrax, joined by HitTrax brand ambassador and good friend Chitty, who's going to be taking us through some really cool stuff, just a dive of how she's utilized the data in her training in the past year, and then a roadmap, for what the next year is going to look like. So thanks for joining us, Chitty.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. This has been quite the journey, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun, and we do have to. So Chitty and I, full disclosure, we've had a lot of hitting conversations over the course of the last year, and so this has been really fun to dive into. What she's done, and how she can continue to leverage the data moving forward. But it all starts with the open-mindedness from you, Chitty, and just this growth mindset that you've had throughout your career, and us at HitTrax, having the benefit of getting to know you in the past year, and your excitement to integrate the technology into what you're doing and embrace it with open arms. And we are true believers that that's, probably why you've seen so much success throughout your career, is just a willingness to continue to evolve and train differently and embrace technology as part of that. So to tell this story appropriately, we have to start in early 2019, in January 2019. You're left off the Team USA roster. You're stuck with really having to evaluate, how you're going to make your way back onto that team. It's the cut before the Olympic team, right? So take us a little bit through what that was like for you, and how you figured out how you're going to navigate moving forward through that next year.
Yeah, so like you said, having that open mindset and willingness to grow. I mean, through that, there's a lot of growing pains, right? So it's not always an easy process, and sometimes I wish I wasn't that way. But then when I see the end outcome, it's like, okay, it was totally worth it, right? So anytime you're going through that growing experience, like you're gonna take a little bit of a dip, and then before you come back up, and it's definitely been through a lot of that. And it was a huge moment for me in 2019 when I did get cut from the team, because it was just like a huge reality check. Because sometimes as an athlete, as a human being, in the back of your head, like, oh, okay, like I could probably be better at this, but I'm getting away with it right now. Or I know I could be, this, but this is working right now, right? There's always those different voices or conversations you have with yourself. And then in some moments, it's like, boom, it just hits you. And that was a moment in 2019 when I got cut from that team. It was just like, okay, well, I mean, is my hitting where it should be? Yeah, it's up there, right? But my defense is not at that level. Like it was not at an Olympic team level. And I knew that, but I was getting away with it up until that point. I knew that I needed to be quicker. I knew that I needed to be more of an athlete out there, like I was, when I was a little bit younger. I knew that I could be in better shape. I knew that I needed to be able to get in my squat and be lower from the catching position. My arm needed to be stronger. So there was a lot of things that I knew for myself. Like if I was giving myself an honest evaluation, I knew I needed to get better in those areas. So for me, it was like, gosh, this is my last opportunity. Like I've been with USA all the way up until this point. This is the last year before the Olympics. What are you going to do about it, right? I could sit there and I could sulk and I could be mad at the committee, like I've been on this team for how long, like, and you're going to cut me now. Or I could sit there and say, okay, all right, I need to be better. Like, and so I reached out to a lot of different coaches, but at the end of the day, like, what you need to be better at. Like, if you can be really honest with yourself. So from that moment, it was like, okay, all in. I need to be, those things, like I'm going to go in and I'm going to be better at. And that's when I started with, I got with my trainer, Chris, and I actually got with my chiropractor too. And that combo really helped my body with my mobility, my movement, all of that stuff. And then even nutrition. So like, there was definitely more things that I could do in my everyday, all the things that I say that I'm going to do, like I started doing them constantly. And when you're consistent with things, a lot of great things happen from it. So it's been a fun year. It was a fun year of training, and it continues to go. And I built some great habits, and I've never felt better.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you shared this video with us, I think, and when you shared it, there's a great Red Hot Chili Peppers back song to it. But so I don't want to play it because I don't want it to be choppy, but it just gets me hyped up watching this video, and the amount that you dedicated yourself to your training, to committing to getting stronger, more mobile, and how that affected the overall gameplay and these overall goals that you had of getting better and stronger defensively, of, getting more consistent at the plate. And I think something that you said earlier that just has always stuck out is you just challenge complacency everywhere. You challenge,
Yes.
where you were comfortable, you analyze where you were in every aspect of your training and really your approach to things. And it's amazing what a difference that made in that following year for you on the field. So let's go with that. So then that following year, that summer of 2019, you play in the NPF for the first time, and you go and you tear it up, a little bit of a comeback of some sorts. You have an incredible year at the plate. Take us through your approach, your mental approach, your physical approach, and then obviously the outcomes spoke for themselves. 2019 NPF Player of the Year, 2019 Silver Slugger Award, led the NPF in just about every category. I think you were just beat out by your teammate in one of them, but take us through that.
Abby Geek. I think that, again, I'll say it over and over, consistency is so huge. And in the MPS, we have a long season with a lot of games. And so that really helped me, find my groove, find my approach, find, the mentality that I was searching for, because I had a bat after at bat after at bat to find that. And I had nothing to lose. I had this mindset coming in here. It's just like, well, every game is an evaluation for these Olympics, and having that mindset, you should be playing that way every single game, right? Every at bat is an evaluation of playing at the highest that you want to be playing at. And so having that approach is like, go for it. I literally have nothing to lose at this point. And so for me, it was just like, attack pitches, like go in there, hunt the pitches that you want and swing, just go for it. And just trust, like I had to just fully like let go and trust that all the training that I did was going to show on the field. Because sometimes, if you don't trust yourself and you're trying to do what you know that you're capable of, game over. It's not going to work. So I knew that I was like, I had the control. I was in control, and I could trust myself. So that was a huge thing. And just, taking my hacks and hit to do damage.
It's awesome. And that catapulted you, right? There you find yourself back on Team USA that October. Take us through what it was like to hear your name on that roster after all that work, that 9 months of hard work and a grind. Yeah. And take us through what it was the first year your name on.
Honestly, too, yeah. Like for me, it was just like, if I don't even make this team, like I can look back at this journey and this last, 9 months, and know that I literally did everything that I possibly could do. I changed my nutrition, 180. I changed the way that I work out. I changed the way that I live my everydays. Like I had done everything that I wanted to do, and then I showed success in the NPF. That's exactly what I want to do. I didn't think I was going to go. I didn't dream of being, NPF Player of the Year, like all those things. Like, but I wanted to be the top 5. I set all these goals to be the top 5 in hitting and be up there in everything. And I did it, and then I was up there. So I did everything that I really truly wanted to do. So if it was meant to be, it was gonna be meant to be. So I went into that tryout just knowing I did everything I could. I did everything I could. So, if you want me, you want me. If you don't, you don't. Like it's not on me anymore, because I know, honestly, if I really truly ask myself, I know I did everything that I possibly could. And that gave me so much more ease and peace, that I'm living with no regrets. And that was like my whole year's approach, like live with no regrets. And so, yeah, seeing my name on that roster was just like, like, yes, like a huge, just like let out of, wow, like it was worth it. It was all worth it. Whether I made the team or didn't make the team, it was all worth it for me. So, and then it was just like, hey, when the work's not over now, like what's next? Like, here we go. Now we got the tour. I'm on the team. Let's go.
And I think that's so cool, because that's where our story starts together. We had some previous conversations a year prior, we met you at NFCA and had always stayed in touch. But, for you to maintain that growth mindset, okay, now I made the team. Now, how can I continue to improve my game? And enters the interest in technology. How can I measure this? How can I amplify my training on my own? How can I hold myself accountable? So for you, again, just going back to your open-mindedness and your excitement to continue to improve your game throughout your career and not stay comfortable and continue to challenge your complacency is remarkable. And I think says so much about you as an athlete. And selfishly at HitTrax, we get this great opportunity to work with an amazing person and an amazing ball player. So then this fast forwards into this winter of 2019, right? Where you're training at the University of Michigan. You have a HitTrax there now on site. So you're able to grab all these metrics and start logging all of this data under your profile. But it's the first time you're really using data. It's the first time you're really using technology in your career, right? So tell us about kind of what you focused on when you were training in 2019, the confidence that you felt in the box, and what your approach was in those training sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. In full honesty, like it was so intimidating, like getting this HitTrax, seeing all these numbers, having no idea what anything means. It was super intimidating. So it was just like, okay, well, how can I utilize this? That makes sense to me right now as I'm learning how to use this system. Like, obviously you can't just go into it, know everything right away. So it's a learning experience. And so for me, it was just like, well, just swing, right? Swing and see what comes from it. And the more that I did that, the more that I had looked, and what you can see on the screen here is the pitch zone. And so for me, like I really took a close look at the strike zone, the pitch zone. And you can see like 71, 78, 77 on the outside, like all the different, that's my exit velocity. And so I was trying to maintain the exit velocity throughout the entire strike zone. And something that I didn't know is that you can see in the top right is that the high outside pitch, like that was a pitch I struggled with the most. And so I was able to learn a little bit more of like, maybe weaknesses that I didn't really know that I had, and strengths in different areas. So I thought that was really cool for me just to kind of get an idea. And then looking at the spray chart and making sure that I'm in, I always want to think when I'm practicing oppo, right? So it's like up the middle to the right side. And you can see on the spray chart, everything is up the middle. And for me, that's huge, right? So in training, if I'm concentrating on getting the ball up the middle, then, miss hits or all those different things, like they're going to go in the direction I want them to go. So those are some of the things I was like focusing on the most. I didn't worry too much about the different numbers because I didn't really know a lot about it at the time. So that was my beginning approach, as to like kind of keep it simple as I was learning more as I went.
Yeah. And I think that's awesome. Just challenging your ability to perform in each part of the strike zone. I think you mentioned we have a video here. For those of you that aren't familiar with HitTrax too much, we also take a video, and log a video to the metrics of every swing that a player takes through that session. So you have all these video breakdowns, which you are familiar with. And
yes, and I did break those down. That was super helpful for me. Like I was used to just doing a phone, and now I have it with each pitch. It was like, oh, that's a good swing. Whoa, look at, I had, according to the HitTrax, that was good. And so it was great to line those two up at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just using what you're familiar with the video, I think you mentioned you were using the point of impact a lot, which is a feature that'll tell you where you're making contact in the zone, and then your performance in the strike zone. But if you look here down the bottom left, we have this big data set. So it's a total of 692 at bats. If you look down here, AB, 692 at bats over the course of 2 months, which we're just collecting this big body of work on the backside, right? Like you're not really paying attention to maybe the breakdowns of your line drive percentages or your exit velocities. There's not a whole, to your point, there's not a whole ton of context to this yet, because you don't really know what your baseline is yet. But I think, if we look at, and this is why we really wanted to highlight the story of your summer coming off of your training throughout the year, is would you say that this winter of 2019 was the best that you felt in the box, was the most successful and just the most comfortable that you felt in your training so far offensively?
Yeah, I would definitely say the most comfortable, just going in there and doing my thing and feeling good. And Yeah, I would definitely say the most comfortable, 100%.
Awesome. So, and we kind of know the story now of 2020. So you go in February, you start with the tour, and I think you've told us you're managing expectations. There's a lot of pressure being on that roster. It's a lot of games, and then all of a sudden everything stops in March, and you're having to figure out, how am I going to continue to work out? Gyms are closed. Batting cages are closed. And there's this gap, right? From March all the way through July, where you're really able to consistently train in a way that's made you so successful in the last year. So tell us a little bit about that time period from the time you left the University of Michigan all the way in through July, just navigating expectations and navigating your training through then.
Yeah, so I would say going into the tour, it was, at first, it's a hive coming in, like, yeah, here we go. And then you're right, like there's expectations. Like I'm a hitter, right? Like I am on that team because I am a hitter. So what do I need to do? I need to perform. I need to show that I can hit, right? And and I'm an aggressive hitter. So it's just like, and then there's moments where you see other people taking pitches and getting walks, and then it's like, okay, well, should I be doing that, or should I be keeping my approach? Like you just go down this, rabbit hole sometimes. At least I do. I'm speaking for myself. Like going down this rabbit hole of these expectations of what it should look like for me to be a DH, to be a hitter on that team, right? And so it was like, okay, well, I don't want to, we're playing colleges, like you don't make them pitch to you, don't swing at, bad pitches. And so, just having all these different things and on top of all the training that we were doing, it was just, I felt like I was just putting too much pressure and just trying to like touch the ball, right? Like instead of going up there with my approach of like, nothing to lose, of being aggressive, getting behind the ball, all those different things. I wasn't really in that mindset. And there's so many different factors. And the thing that I've learned over the years is that someone who understands the mental side of the game, I play a mental game within the mental game, right? So in those moments, I don't feel like I'm out of control, like, because I know how to work myself through it. But in reality, like I was, so going back at it, it's like, oh man, like I'm almost so happy that the pandemic did happen, because I was going down a dark hole, in the beginning of that tour. And obviously I would have eventually probably figured it out, but it was taking me a little while. So,
Sure.
Taking that break and kind of like looking at that moment and seeing that, but then, having that approach of like, don't get too big, just, trying not to get myself out, right? I didn't want to be that type of hitter. And I had been in the past, right? So I'm on the USA team. Like I should be always swinging at strikes, like, all these different things that I put on myself instead of just like, you're at this level, trust it. So, when I carried that over to the training, it was, I'm strong, just let it work itself out, and I, took a different, not a completely different approach, but it was just like, I didn't want to get too big. I didn't want to train and get too big and then be too big come game time. So I was trying to maintain that. And it really did throw me off when I went and started in the AU season.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I think, if we look at this video one more time, this swing one more time, you're totally behind the ball, right? You turn the barrel and then you just stay through it. You get every ounce of power, every ounce of you through that ball. And to your point, if you kind of fast forward until July, you're really trying to navigate that approach in between too big, too small. But you have this data set. And again, we're going to get to the data a little bit later, but more when you so you go back to university or to Utah, Salt Lake City, you're training at DBET Harriman. You have about a month or a little less than a month before you leave for the Athletes Unlimited season, which is really interesting because it does give us a 638 at that data set for us, again, to compare later on. But let's just look at your swing here. We're talking about 7 or 8 months later from the previous video that you just saw. And you kind of see that reflected, right? In everything that you're talking in your approach, you're kind of seeing that reflected in your swing, that just put the ball in play, get your barrel to the ball, kind of visually, I'm able to grab, that representation of that there.
Mm-hmm. And see, and like, that was the thing too, is like, sometimes, when I go into games and I'm really like swinging, like I get too big, right? And I felt like I was a little bit too big in the beginning of the Bandits. So like I constantly am like evaluating things, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought that, oh, okay, like maybe I'm a little bit too. So I was trying to make the transition into AU a little bit easier for me, right? Thinking we'll just shorten up and just let my power take care of itself. But then it made it worse. So it's just like, so you know what I mean? Like it just it's figuring that piece out of where do I stand without getting too big and then not getting too small, and like being in that in between,
Definitely. And, you take this into, you clipped a couple videos for us to be able to show just exactly what you're talking about. So that swing there at D-Bat Harriman is what you brought into the Athletes Unlimited League. And same thing with that in-between mentality, be perfect. It seems like you were trying to say to yourself, only swing at strikes. When I put the ball in play, don't make it look like I tried too hard. You kind of all of that. So take us through, play these at bats. Take us through these at bats of what you were thinking in the process.
Well, in the past, like I said, like I'm an aggressive hitter. Everyone in the world knows how aggressive I am, but sometimes I'd be too aggressive on pitches that are not my pitch. And so I was really trying to like practice this, like be better with this, like take more pitches, draw a walk if I need to, and just really work on being more selective, and which led me to be careful. Like, and again, this is not for every hitter. Like, every hitter is not the same. It's not a cookie cutter mentality. Like, you need to figure out what works best for you and what mentality you need to use. And here, like, you can just see, like, I'm telling myself not to chase pitches, and what am I doing? I'm chasing pitches, right? Like, there's the power. Don't tell yourself not to do something, right? And so, yeah, I think that here it was just, I was trying to be too careful and be too selective almost, and it was just ended up I was doing what I didn't want to do, honestly.
Yeah, and you go back to that first at bat against Taylor McQuillan. That first pitch, I think you
right
mentioned
there,
before, right?
Right there.
That's a pitch when you're hitting your best, when you're your most confident. That's a pitch you're putting over a score.
Oh, I'm crushing that pitch.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you can even just see it by the balls that you're taking, that you're just not trusting yourself.
No, I'm out in front. I'm just trying to, like, whatever I'm trying to do, who even knows, right? And it's just, it's not a spot I enjoy being in. It was very, very frustrating for me.
Sure. And then, you kind of fast forward through this at bat, you're getting yourself out here clearly, it's not your best swing that's getting you out. You're getting you out. And same thing in this next at bat against O'Toole. I think these are the balls previously, even your misses fall in for hits typically when you're putting your best swing on a ball, but you're finding yourself in this situation at AU where your misses are outs, and take us through the difference there.
Yeah. And I mean, like, exactly. So in this approach, like, if I mishit it, I'm going to get out, right? Versus if I'm like staying behind the ball and really putting a swing on it, I might get that bloop hit. I might get that through the 5-6 hole. I might get that, I'm probably not might, I'm going to get that through the infield, So this of just, kind of, it's just a careful approach. It's exactly what it is. It's a careful approach. And then it gets me my miss hits, my which is going to happen. You're going to miss hit the ball, but I'd rather miss hit the ball and smoke it than miss hit the ball and get an infield base hit. Like, I ended up getting like 5 infield hits, and I know that that's an indicator for me as a player. Huh?
That's speed.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I had to do anything possible to get on, right? So it's not the approach I feel comfortable in. Like, I think that I'm like, that's the way to go, but it's not for me at all. Not.
Yeah. So then you go into your last weekend, and what's the thought process here?
I had some conversations with some teammates, specifically Jamie Reed. Like, we had a lot of great hitting conversations. And we were talking about how, when every time I touch the ball, I put it in play, right? Like, I want to be able to foul balls off. Like I want to be able to take a swing, take a hack. And if I mishit it, it's a foul ball back behind me, not a little bleeder in the infield. And so I went in with the mindset of attack your pitch and attack it aggressively. Like really get behind it and trust the sequencing of your swing. Trust that like sequencing is going to give me the time that I need to be able to get behind it and stay behind it. And that's what I did. I was just locked and loaded, ready just to stay behind and swing at my pitches. And there it was like, and here's an example of, okay, so this ends up being a ball. So again, you saw in the Bandits how I hit that one in right center gap. When I'm feeling good, I hit a lot in that right center gap. Yeah. And here, take the outside pitch, strong, swing hard, and trust it. Sometimes it's very nerve-wracking as a hitter to swing hard on an outside pitch because you feel like you're going to be too early or this or that. Like you just have to trust your sequencing. And that's what Janie and I talked a lot about. And then this pitch right here, Haley Wagner's pitches were on fire. That pitch, when I saw it with my eyes, it was right down the middle. But when I took my swing, it broke late and got in on my hands. But because I took a hard swing and I was aggressive, I get that hit, right? So that's a miss hit that becomes a base hit. If I was being careful, that's a pop out in the infield.
Yeah, and in a game of failure, that's the name of the game, right? Is how can we miss hit balls and still figure out a way to be successful?
Fail better, right? Fail better.
100%. And so, if we kind of go into this next slide, I think this is where you and I introduce the data of conversation together, right? Where you kind of called me up and like, okay, we have all this data. I have one more year to be at the highest level of my game before I leave for Tokyo in 2021. How can we use this to set some baselines and to understand what now where I need to go in the next year? And so this really introduces that context to these numbers that you were talking about earlier in the presentation. So what we did, and you saw it earlier in the slides, we took averages of all of your sessions. So you have 690 at-bats at the University of Michigan, and at DBAT, you have about 638 at-bats. So about 50 at-bats less, but pretty comparable amount of a data set. It's pretty equal. And then we just look at the trend percentages, and this is the hard work, I think, sometimes of looking in the mirror and saying, what's going right and what's going wrong. And to, again, always going back to your credit of wanting to continue to improve your game and being open to having these conversations. But if you look at these trends, I think it's really interesting. So, from comparing the best of your game at the University of Michigan to maybe that DBAT Harriman data where you're still struggling to find your approach between too big and too small, you're getting on average about 8 less hits per session that you take. But I found super interesting was that none of those came out of home runs. So on average, you're hitting the exact same number of home runs per session in both at the University of Michigan and at DBAT Harriman. So that hit total, your extra base hits are down about 12. So now we're looking at your doubles and your triples, right? So that approach between too big and too small, you went from more of a doubles approach to more of a singles approach, right? So you're getting less extra base hits, your average velo is down, and now we can actually account, and that's an interesting conversation too. I mean, again, you're 4 months between March and July trying to figure out how can I find a gym, where am I going to work out? I think you're getting pretty creative with milk canisters and whatever you had in the house to try to lift a little bit, so when your power is down, your velos are going to go down. That might not be so representative of anything more than that. But you look at your line drive percentages down about 4.76%. And I think that's huge for you, right? As you said, you're typically trying to hit the ball hard on a rising line drive, and that's where you're going to see your most success. And all of a sudden, whether you're mishitting those balls in the air or you're very steep into the hitting zone, hitting them straight into the ground, your ground ball percentages are up and your fly ball percentages are up. So,
and that's a fine line too. We had talked about that before. because in practice, it's really easy just to hit home run after home run after home run. So it's like, okay, don't do that. Just stay to it, because those will turn into line drives. But like you just said, it was too much of a singles approach instead of thinking, yes, still get behind it and get those doubles, get those triples off the walls in practice. And then those doubles and triples off the wall will be home runs in a game. Mm-hmm. Your miss hits will be singles and the solid hits will be doubles. Mm-hmm. Versus singles, miss hits are ground outs, fly outs in the infield. Barreling up a ball is caught by the outfield, and hopefully I hit a home run. Because that's exactly how that was in the beginning of AU, was exactly that. A miss hit was a weak ground ball in the infield or a pop-up in the infield. A solid hit was an out right to the outfielder, or one they could easily catch in the gap. And I was like praying, can I please hit a home run at some point, right? Yeah. Instead of that second half where it was like go in and hit the ball off the wall. Now I'm starting to see home runs on squared up balls off the wall when I square it up, and miss hits, I get blue.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
And I think the biggest takeaway here is that it gives you confidence in that approach. You can say to yourself without a quiver of a doubt, when I step in the box in my training, I'm going for doubles approach because I know that this is the best version of myself. I will see the most success on the field. And having the data to support that and having
the numbers are going to show it for me.
Yeah.
Now I can go back and look after a session and be like, yes, I did that today in my session. I didn't get too big and I didn't get too small. I stayed exactly where I wanted. And now I can keep track of that every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at these swings and your approach changed, your swing a little bit. And this is early, actually this video is taken at Athletes Unlimited. We had a hit tracks out there for the players to use. So you kind of see that same exact approach that you're talking about, trying to square up the ball, but just at the same time, just put it in play, not square it up to do damage. And you see that reflected in this. We played this video a little bit earlier, just in that first half of the Athletes Unlimited season, just touch it and go, right? And then you look at the second half again of the season, and it looks a lot more like this University of Michigan approach back in December of 2019, where you're really getting behind the ball, you're doing some damage. And now we see that reflected in this.
Mm-hmm.
So
much better. And that pitch that Lily threw there, I grounded out at least 3 times in the beginning when I was facing her. Because it's just a little bit off speed, but I'm trying to go get it instead of just allowing my body to sequence behind it.
Yeah. And now I think it's amazing, right? Like now you have the confidence in your performance in game. You have the confidence with how the data is going to reflect it. And you have this huge knowledge base of how it's going to impact and how to continue to hold yourself accountable to it as you move forward in this next year. So what you're able to do now is just set some goals, right? What are these goals for this next cycle? And you're able to look at that data from the University of Michigan. How can we improve that and go from there? So take us through these next goals in the next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool to do this. Like I'm loving it because I'm all about practicing with intent. Like that is my bread and butter is like, when you have your intent in everything that you do with every aspect, your workouts, your training, like all that kind of stuff, like when you know exactly what you're trying to get out of it, you're going to be able to do that. And you have focus, you have purpose, like everything, and you get better from that versus me just going in there and taking swings to take swings. Oh, I feel good. I mean, I felt good today. I was fine, whatever, right? So now every time I go into practice, it's like, okay, like, I want to maintain that 75 average, because when I maintain that 75 average, that means I have to get behind the ball and I have to swing aggressive. I have to have something behind it. I can't take any swings off. And then do I get that doubles approach, right? So launch angle, I mean, that's something that gets completely like thrown out of proportion when people talk about launch angle, because I know that when it first got explained to me, I was just like, I'm not going to try to hit, like launch angle was home runs, right? I didn't get it. It's the angle of the ball off the bat, right? So understanding that for me with my exit velocity, the 18 to 25 is going to be my doubles approach into home runs. Like that's the range. 18 is the double and 25 is going to be the home run for me. So if I can stay in that range, I know that I'm hitting in that mentality and that approach that I want to. Anything less than 18 for me, the angle becomes down as ground balls, right? I don't want ground balls. Because that's not successful with me. If I'm thinking ground balls, then what's going to happen? I'm going to get weak ground balls out for outs, right? As miss hits. But if I'm thinking 18 for, that line drive gap and I miss hit it, yeah, it's probably going to be a ground ball, but it's going to be a ground ball through the infield. So now, because I'm understanding this data, I can now piece it together to what that looks like on the field. And I love that part of it. And so now I can look at that. Am I maintaining the exit velocity to the right side? Am I maintaining it to the left side? So all parts of the zone, up, down, all that. Am I maintaining that 75 to 77 average that I'm looking for with those launch angles that I'm wanting for that doubles approach? And then challenging pitch speed. So, it's one thing to say that I can do that off front toss, but can I do that off of when the live BP comes in? And can I do that off of a pitching machine when we put up the pitching machine? So it's going to hold me accountable to what I want. And here's the test. Let's see if my transition from this approach makes it a lot easier for me to transition come game time. Because I saw what didn't work. And so now let's see if this does work, and by tracking with the data and making sure I hold myself accountable with this. And I'm really excited about it. So that's going to be my approach in these next month and a half before I get in with USA and trying to maintain that all the way through to the Olympics.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. And, again, it comes back to the way we introduced this presentation is it solely speaks to your growth mindset and the ability for you to constantly seek improvement in your game. And we're so lucky, all of us at HitTrax, and I think the broader community, for how vulnerable you are willing to be with your story, with your journey, with your data. We all learn from it. And I hope we wish you nothing but continued luck. We know that you're going to reach every marker that you set for yourself. So Chidi, thank you so much for sharing all this information with us. Thank you again for your vulnerability to dive into some failures, but really just highlight your path to success in this next year. And you bet we're going to be following you all the way.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.